I will start. Um, Hi, for any of you who don't know me, I'm Gilda Schwartz. I am the Education Vice President for Central Great Lakes Region, and I'm doing this welcome for our President Wanda, who's there, and she will smile and wave at you at some point. Um, the program is volunteering in support of Israel, and we want to thank you all for spending time with us this afternoon, and we hope you enjoy the program. And I want to thank especially Rabbi Sharon Marcus from Cleveland, Linda, Pam Schlossberg, and Wanda for all the help in organizing the program. I'm going to turn this over to Linda Wolf, who is the programming chair for Central Great Lakes Region, and she has worked really, really hard to bring this program to us today. And Rabbi Marcus is actually her rabbi, so they get all that credit up in Cleveland. But anyway, Linda, take it away.
Thank you, Gilda. I want to thank Rabbi Marcus for presenting this program today. I have seen it before. She presented it to my sisterhood. It's an excellent, excellent program. And I want to thank all of you for being here. Oh, we're glad that Wanda's able to attend. And I'm going to introduce Rabbi Marcus at this time. Rabbi Sharon Young Marcus has served as a rabbi at Park Synagogue in Pepper Pike, Ohio for 25 years. At Park Synagogue, Rabbi Marcus's work focuses on the religious school, youth programs, and women's studies, and I'm going to add sisterhood. Rabbi Marcus grew up in Philadelphia, where she was very involved in Jewish youth group and camping. She's a graduate of Brandeis University and was ordained in 1995. She received her doctorate of divinity from HUC-JIR in 2020. Rabbi Marcus?
Thank you, Linda. I'm talking about our volunteer mission to Israel. We took a group from Park Synagogue, and I see some participants, and I saw the Brooks were on, and we visited Elizabeth. So maybe after I, show the slideshow, we can ask them if they want to add anything. But it's not all my pictures. The group took pictures. I'm a terrible photographer, to tell you the truth. The group all took pictures and put them in a WhatsApp group that really worked beautifully. And I picked out pictures from everyone's photos of our experience. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. Our Parks and mission, we went in December, mid-December, we shared a very meaningful week in Israel. I personally lived in Jerusalem for 2 years and traveled to Israel. I tried to count this trip, I think about 15 times, and I have never experienced Israel the same way. We only saw one bus of tourists at one rest stop, and it happened to be all the RA rabbis there for the convention. And I got off, I said, oh, we hit the RA bus. And this trip was supposed to go last August, and all our flights were canceled. We had to postpone to December, and that's when the RA convention was. So I thought, I'm going on this trip. So I walked up to them, and as soon as we connected, your rabbis were the only other people like traveling around Israel by bus. It was eerie. We were so conspicuous that wherever we went, Israelis came up to us and said, where are you from? And what are you doing here? What are you doing in Israel? And when we told them, we got the same response over and over. Toda, toda, we got hugs. Thank you for being here. Our presence made impact wherever we went, wherever we stopped. And I use the word stop loosely because we rarely stopped. We were on the go from sun up to sundown. And remember, it's December, the sun set early. We were like going back from places, it was pitch dark, and we were like going until like 10 at night most nights. And I never heard one complaint from this wonderful group of I'm tired or can we slow down? And we ranged in age, I'm going to guess, from mid-40s to mid-70s. We had a very great group of people that all wanted to come. And everyone was there because they felt like so motivated. There was so much work to be done. Everywhere we went, people needed our help. They were so thankful that we were just, so empowered to keep going and going. We were embedded in like Israeli society. We were in neighborhoods, moshavim, kibbutzim. We were off the beaten path. We did not see, there's one site we saw that you'll see. We went to the wall for Shabbat, and that was the only site we saw. Everyone had been to Israel before except one man, and this was his first trip. And we told him, you have to go back. You know, everyone else had been to Masada, had been to the Dead Sea. And the tourist places weren't really open. We were with the people who were really making the country run with their day-to-day activities, and they needed and appreciate all of our help. Our Israel mission, I feel, had 3 major components, and each day included all of these things. And you'll see when I go through the slideshow, I decided to go day by day because it was so confusing when I kept jumping around. So I'm going to go through our day by day itinerary. But these were the 3 components. We volunteered to help alleviate some of the burden on Israeli society. We traveled to bear witness. We went to the Gaza envelope. We went to Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. And we went to share the burden that Israeli society has carried with it from October 7th to every day since. And then we met with Israelis and heard their personal stories about October 7th, of them or their children serving the army or being displaced from their homes for over a year. We provided a therapeutic ear and the hope that their stories would not be forgotten and would be brought here to the United States into our community, that they just wanted their stories to be told. Every experience was powerful, and we all continue to process what we heard, like during that World War Week. We processed it for months. And I really want to share our story because I want you all to encourage your congregations to take a service trip to Israel. They really need our hands-on help, and they need our support. And I think it's really important. And I would have already left with another group. We just have other things going on in our park. And it's been a little heck. Our senior rabbi's wife just recently passed away, and I couldn't really leave. But I am so ready to take another mission. I'm hoping maybe in the summer, maybe in August. But they need our help, and we should be sending missions every 3 months from different synagogues because it's really important. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go day by day, and maybe someone in my group, if they might say, I took that picture. And at the end, I wanted to share a song and maybe part of a podcast if I can. We'll see how our time's going, but we'll start with the pictures. So here's a picture of the majority of our group. A couple people went early, but here we are by the big mezuzah, as you can see. Where's my cursor? Nope. You'll see the big mezuzah behind us at Ben Gurion Airport. We have just landed, and we were very excited to get going. On our first morning, we woke up. We got there in the afternoon, so we took kind of easy that night. Then we started right on the go. Our first morning, we ended up at a moshav called Berutaim. It's up in the north, not so much. We stayed pretty much in the middle of the country, but it's not too far from Hod HaGadar, which I'll tell you about in a sec. But most of the members were off in the army. It's a young moshav. People were not there working. A young woman, 25-year-old, was like, thank you. We have no one to package our vegetables, and they were a packing plant. And we kept hearing the same refrain. All the Thai and Palestinian agricultural workers are gone. They were either murdered, or they did not get their visas, or their countries called them back. Thai and Nepal recalled many of their workers, and their agricultural systems are all in trouble. And they said these vegetables are going to waste if we can't get them to market. But we know all the labels were in Hebrew. These were for Israeli families. This was Israeli food that we needed to get out. And so we packed, and these are little mini avocados that look like the size of a date with no pit. We were amazed by them. Avocados come up a lot, but that was the season. And these are vegetables that we are packing away. So here's peppers. These are all members of our group. I have some sister ladies on here. Miriam, you might recognize, and Richard Brooks, I think, is on the Zoom with his wife. Is right here. I can't seem to point. Oh yeah, I can point it. Here's Miriam, Richard, but here's the peppers. And we are packing away. Okay, tomatoes, peppers. It was very, it was our first morning. We didn't know what to expect. And it was, we had fun. They brought in music, and then, we said, is there a bathroom we can use? They take us next door. We go into their, her brother's apartment. They were so open and welcoming. And then from there, we went to Hod HaGadar. And here, I believe, is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, this is you, right? In the picture. She might be muted, but Elizabeth's on. I think it's Elizabeth. So we went to visit our sister congregation, Hod V'Hadar, because we had so many Zooms and we were very close by, and I had arranged a special meeting. And we loved seeing them. This is Sanctuary Elizabeth. You'll see Rabbi Judith. Here's Rabbi Judith with me. Here's Leslie. Elizabeth's up here. And so we had a very nice lunch. They had a beautiful lunch for us. And Judith and I led the beer cut. We just loved being together. It was our first day, and but that's when we were in the area. But we had a wonderful time. They have a beautiful building, and they shared with us such hospitality. It was lovely. And Judith and I have such a friendship now, from these programs we have led. It's really wonderful. And we weren't done because we were by Leket, the National Food Bank. So this looks like similar to the other place, but it's much bigger. This is a warehouse. And they had us go. And you might have heard of Leket. When I've been to Israel other times, we've picked out in fields in the south. We were picked produce for Leket. But here they're having trouble just sorting what they have picked. And they haven't picked everything. So we were separating between bad and good produce. And the bad wasn't getting thrown out. The produce, here's Jackie Brooks and Becky Chesler. These are persimmons. The bad wasn't getting tossed. The bad was going for animal feed. So we had to separate these big bins. And we were separating, and these were hot peppers. We had to put gloves on, stinging our eyes a little bit, hot peppers. Let me tell you about that before we get there. So we sorted the vegetables, and some went to, they were going to food banks for people in need. And the rest were going to animals. And they said they used to get volunteers all the time. Israelis were volunteering, but they don't have outside groups coming. So it's really important. There was one man that came to volunteer on his own. He was there for some kind of medical convention, and they put him with this group. Turns out he had been in Cleveland. He had been at Park Synagogue. He knew people in common. It was like, the small world comes together. So he said it was so basher. They put me with the Cleveland group. So it was really lovely. Everywhere we went, if we met like one person, there was some kind of connection like that. And from there, we went back to Tel Aviv. And we went to, we weren't going for dinner, but everything, every component had a learning piece. We went on a graffiti tour, and that's what you see here. This is in a warehouse area in Tel Aviv. It reminded me of Soho. It's called the Florentine neighborhood. It used to be all warehouses, and now it's being gentrified. And there's all these cute little cafes, but young people are moving in, living in lofts, and it's the artist area. And what they did is they took these, it was just streets, like 4 or 5 block radius of just murals on the side of all these buildings. And the section he took us in, this is our tour guide, Shimmy, right here. Here's Shimmy, and here's our group. He was telling us about these artists. We went to a section that they had a wall dedicated to every child hostage. And remember, in December, we had different information than we have today about the Beavises. You're gonna hear that a few times. But this was all done October, November, December of 2023, really probably November. It was before any of the children were let out. And so they had dedicated a wall to each of the children. And it was really very, very moving. So here we kept snapping pictures with slogans that were powerful. Kidnapping Gal Goldstein is not a fight for freedom. She was a young girl with a bike. And here's a 9-year-old. This is for Roz, bring her home, time is running out, little pictures of the kids. And here is Kafir Beavis, 9 months old. At that point, we still were hoping he was alive. Now, no, he's not, but this was, you see the bottom, too young to learn hate. And this was, as soon as we saw the red hair, we knew, who it was. So it was just beautiful. Now, it was tribute to the kids. Most of those kids did survive. This is beautiful memorial, and they're keeping all these paintings up, is part of the neighborhood. It's part of the nature of the culture of this neighborhood. And then they had a wall that was for hope. And we didn't have, I said, wait, I have a Sharpie in my backpack. I pulled out a Sharpie, and someone snapped a picture. I'm sending prayers to Park Synagogue. I put it on the wall there, this wall of hope for Ariel and Kafir. And we just saw people were writing notes from different places all over the world. That was the end of day 1, I should say. The next day we went to, this was really the most difficult day. We went to the south. We went to the Gaza envelope. And we first thing we started with Kibbutz Kisufim, which is our Cleveland Federation adopted this kibbutz to help rebuild it. So we also have a connection. So the tour was just taking us to the south, and I said, let's go, like Hovadar, let's go to this kibbutz. So we made a connection, and we went there for lunch. And here I am with Carrie, the Brooks niece. We were picking avocados. This was really our favorite experience in agriculture. We're outside in the sun. Remember, it's December. We're in t-shirts. It tells you what the weather was like. And we had these t-shirts. One of the participants, Becky, had these t-shirts made, and we decided this was the day to wear them. So we would be, seen as a group. And here we are picking avocados. They're long rows. We learned a lot about avocados. Turns out they grow 11 types of avocados. Ladies, did you know there are 11 types of avocados? We find 1 or 2 in our supermarket. They were big. They were different than the ones we get. And we heard such unbelievable stories. So the head of the avocados is a man named Philip. And he had a little bit of an accent. We're like, oh, your English is very good. He goes, I'm from Ireland. he was Irish. He had this lovely little English lilt. And he told us his story, though. He's in charge of the avocados. He's also was in charge of agricultural workers. And there were like 9 Thai workers. 6 were murdered and 3 left. They were, recalled back to Thailand. Very few have come back. A few have come back. I think 2 or 3 have come back. His family, he had 4 kids. 2 were locked in the safe room. 1 was in the army, and 1 was outside. The older one out with his grandfather shooting, trying to secure the kibbutz. And it's unbelievable. And his wife was out training for a triathlon, was out running on the road and stopped in one of those shelters. And when you ask him how they all survived, and how he said, like this, God. So, you saw the faith, you saw what they went through. Our jaws were dropping when we were hearing the story of them telling us where each family member was on that morning at 6:30 in the morning. And it's miraculous. It was miraculous that they survived. But the kibbutz was decimated. There's 300 members of the kibbutz, and only 20 have come back. They're living at a community about 45 minutes away, Omer, and Federation is trying to rebuild this kibbutz and get them back in. They don't all want to come back right now. The kids are scared, but a whole row of homes, like a whole tract of their housing, was burnt down. Their young adult area was like shot up and decimated. And the oldest hostage was from this kibbutz. Here's Miriam. She's a sisterhood woman picking avocados. We got some more avocados. And Sandy. Okay, the oldest survivor that we were praying for his return, and we just recently found out he also was killed, is Shlomo Mansour. This is his house. And he took us to his house. You can see the gunshots on the wall here. All his mementos. He has lots of knickknacks around. Some were shot at. These markings, this Tav and the numbers, were from the army. You see them all over spray painted house. It was from the days after. Like I would guess this is for, no, I don't know what the date is. No, I don't, they had codes. I don't see the date on there. I saw it in some other houses, but it tells you when they went through and found it was clear of terrorists. They had to check every home and check for survivors, check for, dead Israeli corpses. They said they were checking. The army had to go in and check who was gone, and there was still, there's still bodies in these homes. It was horrendous. It was horrendous. And then they also had a mark that there was no terrorists hiding there. So they had different markings on the homes, and it was all army code for clear, all clear. It was just heartbreaking. And we were praying for Shlomo Mansour. He was 86, and he, was recently the last group of hostages he was supposed to let. He was found he was dead, and then our federation had a memorial service. They let me lead a prayer, and we had a memorial service at our federation because we didn't, the whole community was praying for him. It was just so heartbreaking. Here's our group in the Moadone. This is our whole group, and this is a woman from our partnership community. We were partnered with Beit Shan, but with the Beit Shan's helped adopt his kibbutz, and she came down from the north to be with us that day. We gave her a shirt, and they took us on a tour of the kibbutz. Shlomo Mansour, if any of you know the book, one of my favorite books is The Chicken Man. He was like the chicken man at the kibbutz. He worked in the chicken coop. And so they had all fond things to say about him. It was a wonderful visit. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to add. I think we were hearing about from the head of security, who was a young guy who was younger than my daughter. He must be like 24, a young Israeli soldier. He was the head of security. Now the head of security was killed on October 7th, and he was there, and he was telling us it was 20 people, and he showed us where the homes were that were all burnt out, and they're trying to rebuild this whole track of homes. So they need to do that before people can move back. So the kibbutz is pretty quiet, but they were thrilled to have a group. They hadn't had a group, they said, since October 7th. But Federation has been sending people through, our Federation is sending people through to visit when they can. And from there, we took a short ride over to the Nova Music Festival. And this is the site of the Nova Music Festival. If anyone had been in New York after 9/11 and visited the church right across the street, this is what it reminded me of. Makeshift, after 9/11, I was there once, and they had like just posters up and, names and pictures and things from families. That is what this was like. We visited these places before a museum is built there, before the government decides how to memorialize. These are like family memorials. And so I'm going to show you some pictures. The families all set up little, really tributes to their loved ones who were killed here. And we just saw like a beautiful young woman. We all took different pictures. And later you're going to hear, we heard stories, and then we realized I have a picture of that person, but I just caught this Noah. My daughter's name is Noah, and I saw this Noah Englander, and it just touched me. This beautiful young girl. And they see each family, they're just close together. And what we did is we took yahrzeit candles. I had a friend who had been there, a colleague had told me to take yahrzeit candles. So I asked them, I asked the tour guide to get them. I'm like, do I bring yahrzeit candles from America? We got them in Israel. But we gave everyone a yahrzeit candle, and we went around, we found, someone that spoke to you and lit a candle. And then we did a little memorial in a grove of trees nearby that I had written. I found some poetry that I thought was meaningful about October 7th. And it was always, a lot of it was very graphic, and I never was comfortable using it at the synagogue, but this is where it was perfect. We read it here, and we did the Kaddish for all of them. They're family to us. And so we saw all these little memorials. These are little models of the anemone flowers that grow in the South. And they make them, and we have them around our Federation too. You might have seen them around the States, but they made these little flowers, the grove. And here is one of the bomb shelters, these little bomb shelters. And I believe this is the one that Hirsch Goldberg was in. They're small, and they have no door. And they thought, people were putting 20, 30 people in the thing, their protection, but they became death traps as they threw hand grenades in or set them on fire. It was horrific. But here's one of these little shelters. It was right there by the road. And we later heard the story of this father and daughter. And so someone had the picture. That's why I'll tell you, like later we heard a tour guide, and they told you, and someone said, I had that picture of them. I saw them. So this picture just touched my heart. This is, I don't even know their names, a father and his disabled daughter. She is wheelchair bound, and she's nonverbal, but she loved music. And so this father took her to all these music festivals all over Israel. And the man who told us the story, I'll tell you about him in a bit. He's later in the day. He was a tour guide. He goes to all these festivals. He said they were a well-known pair. Everyone saw them on the dance floor. Everyone said hi. It was like you kept seeing the same people at these events. And they couldn't find their remains after October 7th. They were worried they were taken hostage. And so what happens if they're hostage? And so the family was, panicked and kept looking. And so then they told the family they found the father's remains. They found remains, but not the daughter. They said he would never leave her. He would never separate from her. There's no way. Keep looking. And then after they did more research, they found her remains, they were intertwined. They were intertwined, and that's how they were hugging. They think they were burnt or killed together. They was burnt because they could barely find the remains, and they were intertwined together. And they said they knew the family at least was comforted that they knew he would never leave her. And so it's a beautiful pair. It's one of those many stories coming out of October 7th. And from there, we went to another place called Tekem, which is where the burnt out cars were taken. And this just overwhelmed us. The sheer numbers made it real. It's like shoes at the Holocaust Museum. When you see the pile of shoes, you just can't comprehend the numbers. There's these walls of cars, and these pictures do not do it justice. You heard the communal gasp. I just was floored about the numbers and the piles and this huge lot of cars that were off from the road, that main highway. It really helped us understand the magnitude of the numbers. And when you go to a Holocaust Museum, and I think they did Schindler's List, there's all the brown shoes, there's a pair of red shoes. Well, here maybe you can see the walls of cars. It was just unbelievable. But here you see all this brown burnout cars and one blue car. That's what it reminded me of, the red shoes in a Holocaust story. It's just it stood out so drastically in this unbelievable lot. And from there we went to Sderot. Sderot, you might have heard the story, was the police station was overtaken by Hamas. An IDF finally got on the roof, and they knew there were no survivors. They destroyed the building with Hamas in it, but they knew there were no Israelis. They had taken over the police station. And that was really one of the first, that was a huge battle. It took a couple days after October 7th. And so they rebuilt these pillars in place where the police station was. It was and we got, as I said, it was December. It was only about 5 o'clock, but we had the tour guide saying, we have to go. Like, we wanted to spend time in all these places. We have to go. The sun's setting. We have to see it. So we got here just about sunset. It was really beautiful. And I have a friend in Israel who happened to be in Sderot that day. And she met us and told us her story. And she said, I went out my balcony, and the IDF is saying, get inside. There's terrorists on your roof. And she said it was just unbelievably, shocking and scary day. And this was all day 2. That was a day. You have to think about what we experienced every day. It was unbelievable. This was a tough day. We headed back to Tel Aviv at this point, and we had dinner, and then we went back to the hotel, and then we had a wonderful speaker, a man named Amit, and he's the one who told us the story of the father and the daughter. Amit is a tour guide. He's a licensed tour guide, and he went with 3 friends to the music festival. He's also a music lover. He goes to all these festivals. And 2 other friends, a couple, husband, were supposed to meet them in the morning. They went the night before, and they were dancing all night. And they were older, a little older than a lot of young people that were there. And when they started hearing the sirens, they were trying to help people. A young girl, he said, get down. He was trying to help them. And they made it to their car. Oh, and there was a whole story how they were going to take his friend's old car. And the last minute, his wife said, take the Subaru. And he came back to that. And we didn't, what's this? Well, he said, we got in my Subaru, and everyone was going one direction, and there was a long line of cars, and he drove over the dunes in the desert the other direction. And his friend's like, you're crazy, you're going to get stuck. He goes, remember, I'm a tour guide, and I'll get you out of here. And he said, thank God we had the Subaru, because they could drive, and he went the other way, and they survived. Most people on the road going the other way did not survive. And the husband and wife that were coming down to meet them left 3 kids with a grandmother, and they stopped along the road and went into one of those bomb shelters, and they were killed. And they left 3 beautiful daughters. And he was so traumatized. He got his friends out and saved their lives, and they really credit him with saving their lives. But he didn't leave his house for 2 months. He couldn't leave. He was having therapy online. He was we could see him struggling to tell us a story, but we sat there, and it was supposed to be an hour. I think we sat there for over 2 hours. His story, we were hanging on every word. We want him to come to the States. He was going to Florida in, I think, February, to speak at a group, but we could tell we were his therapy. You know, he was starting to be able to talk to groups again by telling us his story. And it was a very, very powerful evening. Then we'll go on to day 3. It's quite a trip, as you can see. Day 3, we started in a kitchen in Rishon LeZion, and we had fun day cooking. This was really a fun. We laughed because some days we cried a lot and some days we laughed a lot. This was a fun day. We were these very, very Orthodox people that said, come on in. And they make meals for underprivileged families. And then they added on making meals for soldiers. They make Shabbat meals for like over 100 soldiers. And they just took that on after doing these meals for 100 families. These were not like frozen meals. These were from scratch, beautiful Shabbat meals. And every time they told us to do something, make 100, make 100. So we were making chicken and fish. Here's Marty, and salads. And how many containers? 100. We were counting 100. I was packaging all day, but we were there from about 9:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon. And Angela making, this was like a chulent, like the beans. And, you know, things were hot. It was big pots, and we were cooking. This is one of the religious women behind Angela. And I'm trying to get my cursor. This woman, and she kept. I guess someone had called me Rabbi, and she kept saying, "What makes you a rabbi?" They didn't like our theology, but they were very, very welcoming and happy to have our help, and were very friendly. And they also about 1 o'clock they said, "Oh, you need lunch." They had to sit down, and this man back here in the back, trying to get my cursor to work. Sorry, guys. Here, he made us these homemade barekas that were delicious, spinach and cheese. He said, "Oh, they're Turkish barekas." So here we are sitting down for lunch because he said you have to eat, and it was delicious. And this was their little store. And it's like we have something in Cleveland called the Kosher Food Bank and the and a food pantry. It's like the people come shopping. They want to give them dignity. There's shopping carts, and they get a certain amount each week. And it's a little store. Reminded me of our little Ungers. You know, they walked around the store and they picked up what they needed, and it was really nice. They told us the whole system, and it's all run by volunteers. And before we left, of course, they said, "Oh, you have to sing and dance with us. Here's this other religious woman over here. This is Esther. She was in charge of it, these 2 women. And they danced and sang Od Yoter Tov with us. It will get better. It will be better." And so it was really, you know, we ended up on a very high note with them. We saw their faith and their hope. And we got to witness, and we felt better after, you know, being with them. We really did. From there, we went to Hostage Square in Tel Aviv. And we get to Hostage Square, and we're having a tour, and then someone comes over and says, "Oh, we do a prayer circle on I think it was Thursday. Yeah, Thursday nights. We do a prayer circle and singing. Will you come sing with us?" And she said, "Where are you from?" And she had, I can't remember exactly. She goes, "Oh, we're Masorti. And we're like, "Wait, we're Conservative Synagogue." So like, as I said, we met people. There was a connection right away. Everything was like a very Bashert meeting. On Thursday nights, turns out Masorti does a circle on Hostage Square, and we had no idea, and we just showed up there. They were thrilled to have us. And then we ran in, this another rabbi from Columbus, Hillel Skolnick here. He said he was leaving the RA, and we ran into him. And there were some people there also from Kibbutz Hanaton, our conservative kibbutz. And so it was so meaningful. We sat and talked to them a little bit and sang with them a bit. And we walked around Hostage Square. So there was a couple tents where they were selling you know, yellow wristbands and things and flags and T-shirts, and we bought a lot to bring back. And here we went to one of the tents was this is each kibbutz that lost people had tent, and here are 2 members. They're actually, as she said, I live near here now, and they have people at these tents 24/7. She said, "We are relieving some of the kibbutz members." She said, "I live near Tel Aviv now, but I grew up on the kibbutz. And once you're a member of kibbutz, you're always a member of kibbutz." And her son were taking this shift and telling us about the 2 members of the kibbutz that were hostage. And they were, you know, praying for their release. And so we sat with them a bit. And then you must have seen the Shabbat table set up in Hostage Square. This was set up still from Sukkot under a sukkah. They said they changed the, with the seasons, they're changing like the table style, but this is in a big sukkah left from Sukkot. And you'll see all these, this was amazing. You see all these mismatched chairs. And they said they used to have all the same plastic Israeli chairs, but now you have all this mismatched chairs because the families all brought chairs from their homes. And they have written their names on the chairs. These were the chairs from people's homes for the hostages, from the childhood rooms and things like that. So it was very powerful. It really was more representative. And here in the middle was the kids' table. And that's when we thought Ariel and Kafir were still alive. And here was the little kids, the kids' chairs and the kids' table representing them among the hostages. A very powerful spot. There's piano, maybe Esther can tell us, I do not remember the hostage's name, but he's a pianist, and all over, we saw another one in Jerusalem, all over Israel, you'll see there's pianos that the family has placed there for people to play. And when we came, someone was playing, and they just want music, hoping, to honor his spirit, to, try to, we won't bring him home. They have these pianos, yellow with yellow on them around the country for people to play. And then they have a little replica of a tunnel, what a tunnel would be like. We walked through it. Excruciating, and it's only very short little model, but you can walk and feel what the sounds would be like in the tunnels underground, and how scary it would be for our hostages where they're being kept. And there's this big hourglass on one side, and it's symbolizing, the time is running out for the hostages. And they let us flip it. You had to give permission to flip it. And they said, when groups come like you, we feel like maybe we're buying them some time, giving them some more hope. And they had us flip it. And it seems silly, but we all felt it was a really powerful symbol. I was really in tears as we flipped it, hoping to give them some more time. It was a very powerful short visit to Hostage Square. And that was Thursday. And then the next day is Friday, and we headed towards Jerusalem. Some of our group left to go be with family for Shabbat. Majority of us went on to Jerusalem. And on the way, we stopped at this farm on Friday morning that's very close to the airport. We kept seeing planes coming down, and we saw Air Force Two come over our heads. It was really miraculous. We could see, you could see the writing on the planes, but we were right by the airport. And it was a farm that really prepared, as he said, they had niche, really specialized vegetables for some chefs and restaurants that would come and buy their wares, their produce. And he told us how half of the fields were here and half we could see were across, on the other side of a highway. He said it was very close to the West Bank. They could not pick in those fields since October 7th. They just let them go to waste. And they were just trying to keep these fields going. But part of the fields that had gone to waste, he said we could salvage some of it, and we hope to replant it. And they salvaged all these spinach seeds. It was some, spinach seeds, and they could not, it had rotted because they couldn't get there in time, and couldn't take care of it in time. So we had this very tedious job of separating, but we thought it was very interesting. We had to separate spinach seeds from the plant. And the hope was that the next season they're going to replant them and maybe be able to, salvage another field. But he told us the story of his workers also. He had Thai workers. He had a lot of Palestinian workers. A lot they had lost their visas. They couldn't come in. Some of them, he said, we found out one of our workers ended up being a suicide bomber. We don't want them back. And so we're just trying to figure out how to keep our farm going. There's 4 generations in this farm. He took us on a walk, and we saw some amazing vegetables we'd never seen before, like baby eggplants and different interesting things. And from there, we left and got to Jerusalem in time for lunch on the Tayelet. You see the weather's beautiful. Jerusalem's behind us. And we had a picnic lunch outside in December. Unlike something we can't do in Cleveland. And we oversaw, overseeing Jerusalem. And then we went to the wall that night. We we lit candles like in the old city and went down to the wall. And we just we just were milling about and listening to people. And when we were I was, of course, was the women's side with a group of the women, and there was some young girls singing, and they let us join them. I'll go back to this. Let us join them, and they said, "Where are you from? What do you?" One of them was so excited to practice. A young 16-year-old, happy to practice our English with us. Again, what are you doing here? You could tell they were very religious. And we told them, and they said, "Toda, toda," and gave us hugs and kisses. They were really so happy to see us, wherever we went. Anytime I'm there and I, been into the wall and I'm clearly not, an Orthodox woman, I get dirty looks, I got pushed aside. This was a very different experience. They really were trying to encompass us and where you're from and what are you doing and what, where take our stories back. We kept hearing a much warmer, we had a much warmer reception than I often would have in some of those religious circles. So it was really very powerful. And we really felt like, people were happy to see us. We gave them hugs, and we really felt like we gave them some hope too, some hope that we cared and to carry on. Saturday night, of course, we had a very nice Shabbat. We went to the Conserve Center Saturday morning. We went to a beautiful service there. They welcomed us warmly. We walked around. We had delicious food. We found that our hotel, we stayed at the King's Hotel right across from Conserve Center. Many of you might be able to picture it, right at Agrone and King George Street. Our hotel was packed, but everyone the women had, big head wraps on. They were really, religious Zionists. We could tell everyone was speaking Hebrew in the elevator. The stairwells were packed with kids running up and down. And as we're walking down the stairs, I learned the elevator took too long, but we were walking, we get to some landings and there's high chairs and tricycles and a wagon and riding toys. We're like, these are not people just visiting for a weekend. So I started asking one of the women, and she was very friendly. She said, "We've been living here for over 15 months, over a year. They've been living there. They were from up north, communities up north. They've been living in Jerusalem in this hotel for, at that point, over a year. And on Shabbat, when we went to the dining room, the table, Americans, that they had the table for us. They could tell that, we were the only Americans there. But we saw a side room and they had their own pots of cholent that they've been living there. They gave them a part of the hotel kitchen to make their community cholent. They were here. We heard different groups doing birkat. There were different communities there, and it was really amazing. And we were just kind of living among them. That was very, very special. We took a little walking tour of Jerusalem. And then Saturday night, as I mentioned, we, of course, went to Ben Yehuda. Here we saw a little bit of a protest, for the hostages, but the bigger protests were in Tel Aviv. This was little protests. They were going up Ben Yehuda. They were going to go be by the prime minister's house, which is right near where we were staying. And then the next morning, Sunday morning, we went and made packages for soldiers. They made little care packages of a soda, a crunchy snack like a Bisley, and a chocolate bar. And most importantly, we wrote handwritten notes. They said, write them in English, put your email. They might write to email you. And we sat and we wrote notes, and we made 200 packages for soldiers. And a lot of people said this was one of their favorite projects that we did. We were packing them up. And then this was our last afternoon in Jerusalem. This is the only time we had free time. We gave people like 2-3 hours free to go shopping. We went to Ben Yehuda, to Machane Yehuda, my favorite place in Israel. And we were quickly shopping and buying and eating to take things home. But here we had the dried fruits and the spices. I just always love these pictures of the market and the baklava. Look at these piles of baklava. It was just mouth-watering is the best way I could put it. And then before we left, we took the bus to we went to the airport. We stopped at Niot Kedumim, which is like an agricultural, it's like a biblical garden, I should say. And they grow species from the Bible. And they also told us, interesting here, that a lot of the scout groups could not go up north or down south all year like they used to camping. So a lot of the groups were camping in this park. They had different groups every night. So they let us plant trees. It's a ceremonial tree planting. And they allowed us, they said, to leave your legacy in the land. And so we planted these trees, and we planted them for hope and for rebirth and the idea of rebuilding Israel. So it was really a very powerful trip. And we were right from there to the airport. So now that's my slideshow. But I wanted to share a couple more things with you. We were so impacted by the resiliency of the Israeli people that we met, and everyone was working what we would call 3 shifts. The army, their family, and helping out in the community. And that was our tour guide. He was touring, he was leading tour groups. He was going to the army the next week for like 5 days to run supply trucks to Gaza. And then he was home with his family. He has like 2 little girls. They came to the hotel. We said, please let them join. They came for Shabbat to the hotel. And they were all working like 3 shifts. They were people volunteering with agriculture while they're doing the army and their family. It was just unbelievable. And I kept hearing this song. The tour guide, his radio was playing, or the bus driver's radio was playing. And I kept saying, translate for me. This is like the hit of the year. It's a very powerful one called Nation of Superheroes. And it was, to me, was the refrain of my trip. And the translation didn't do it justice. So I want you to see the video and hear the music. So I'm going to hope it's going to work music-wise. And tell me if you can hear it, and we'll let it play. It's on about 3 minutes.
אז המורה לתנ"ך בגבעתי, המורה ללשון מודיעין, השכן מלמעלה קבלן עבודות, אבל חודש כבר במילואים. עורכת הדין היא קמבצית, עושה משמרות באוגדה. אחיה איש הייטק בכיר, עכשיו הוא צלף על גגות ברצועה. מנהל את הסניף הקשוחה של הבנק, היא סמג"ד ביהודה ושומרון. דורון הוא בעל חנות צעצועים, עכשיו הוא מ"פ בשריון. והמדי שלנו כפרה, שלרוב מזמר בקיסריה. הוא לוחם הנדסה, מתאושש בגבורה, אחרי שנפצע בלב עזה. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על. בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם. יש את הנהג אוטובוס של דן, זה שתמיד עומד בזמן. הוא עכשיו מפקד סוללת תותחנים בדרום, ליד נרעם. יש סטודנט בטכניון, באמצע תואר ראשון. הוא סרן במיל בעוצבת הגליל, כבר חודש בגבול הצפון. יש פה דוגמנית פרמדיקית, יש פה חשמלאי שהוא מגיסט. יש את יוני נגן סקסופון מחונן, שהוא קודם כל מטקליסט. יש לכולם ארוני סטאר, או ארגז גדול מאובזר. יש פה סט של מדים וגלימת מילואים, מוכנות תמיד לאתגר. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על. בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם. וזה לא משנה אם באמצע חיים או באמצע משחק כדורגל, כולם יעזבו את הכל בשנייה אם יקרא להם הדגל. פה זה לא יקום מקביל, לא מציאות של מרוויל, זה הסיפור שלנו, עם ישראל, זה הסיפור שלנו. נכון כולם נראים רגילים, אבל אנחנו עם של גיבורי על. בכל אחד תמיד מסתתר חייל, מוכן להציל את העולם.
Okay, there's one more slide. I'm going to ask, well, I'll probably figure out how to pull it back up. But I also want to tell you that the Purim Carnival was 2 weekends ago, last week, and my chair decided superheroes would be a good theme. And I said, I have the perfect song. And so I played that outside the Purim Carnival. We had Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and we had a screen. I had that playing all day. And that's really why I let her pick superheroes, because I thought of that song. It had this double meaning for me. Does anyone ask? I have a podcast that one of our members' sons, Toby Bresky's son, Ben, made. He interviewed us on Ben Yehuda. He lives in Israel. He interviewed us on Ben Yehuda, and then he interviewed us from the airport. I could play a couple minutes, but I want to leave some time if anyone has any questions, or if I would love to hear from Elizabeth what's going on in Israel right now. And if anyone wants to share anything else. Elizabeth, can you tell us?
First of all, I really, really want to thank you. And you said it, but you have no imagination how important this trip was for us and all your support during this year, or it's a year and a half. I can't even believe it. It has been tremendously supportive, and we truly appreciate it. I mean, it's shouldn't be taken for granted that you all came, and we really had a good time when you were at Hod Vada. And really thank you again. And at the moment here, it's becoming again very difficult. And first of all, you all know, we're back into sirens and Gaza and north and sirens in the middle of the night from Yemen. So this is basically one side, the war, and people just don't have the strength anymore. It has been too long, and people ongoing miluim, as I know, like from my own family, but of course also so many others, and it takes a lot. It's very, very tiring, and people are afraid. And in addition, now the political situation, who becomes worse and worse by the hour. So saying again what I said at the beginning, the support, the contact, the exchange is so important and gives us support and strength. And I'm coming from Europe, as you hear from my accent. And I was there now. I'm from Switzerland. I was there my first evening. I was there for a week. I went out, and it took half an hour. I saw a group of people with Palestinian flags, even in Switzerland. So I know, and I'm reading a lot and hearing a lot what's going on by you. And yeah, not easy times for everyone.
Thank you. It was so powerful being with you. And I wanted also to tell everyone you can be a member of Hod V'Hadar. I am now an overseas member, and I think a lot of people from our group joined. So you can also support them that way by being a member.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm going this afternoon to see October Hate, which is a movie. If you haven't heard that, it's actually in Cleveland this weekend. I'm not sure how long it's going to be here, but it's at Clevelanders. It's at the Shaker movie theater. And I just found out from our Shin yesterday it was playing here. I did not even know. And I'm pretty up on things. I think they're keeping it quiet because they don't want protesters. So I am going there 3 with a friend. But I've been to city council meetings speaking and protesting. It's been horrendous. It's been horrendous. And we are just doing we can't stop. We have to speak. The one time we didn't go to a city council meeting, they took over and they passed a divestment thing. That was the city council, but we have to really be present at Federation. So we have to be present. We can't let down our guard, and we have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking out. It's really important. Okay, let me play about a couple minutes of this video if I can. Anyone else have any questions though? Linda, do you want to do some questions first before I?
No
Go
one
on.
has put questions
I
in
haven't
the
seen it.
chat, but are there any questions?
I have a quick question. Judy Frank from Chicago. Is it possible to be able to show this slide, this presentation to our own sisterhood, or?
It's my group's pictures. I mean, I can.
Okay,
send you,
I
but
mean,
it's like
I
my,
just thought it
it's
was
like our
really
school.
interesting,
Thank you.
informative.
If you want, I could maybe do it like for another sisterhood. I'm happy to take it on the road. I don't have a whole
okay.
lot of time to tell you, but the thing is, it's like I just was telling you my story as I looked at the pictures.
No, I understand, but I
Yeah.
just found it really informative, and
And where are you? Where'd you say?
I'm
Where?
actually from Skokie, Illinois.
Oh, okay, my good friend. I mean, if you
Okay.
want to contact me, I
Okay.
can see, but maybe maybe I can. Oh, my dog.
Okay, well, I'll bring it up to the sisterhood and see
See
what they.
if they want to see. But this is really why I'm showing it. I want you all to talk to your rabbis about taking a trip. They need us to go. So I'm really, the reason when Linda asked me, I said, sure, if I could spread the word, take a group from your synagogue, help arrange it. It's not, look, you don't have to be young. It's not hiking. You don't have to feel like you're not going to. We were in the kitchens and we were, doing a little bit of picking, but mostly it was packing and cooking and things that we probably do at home. So they need our help. So talk to your rabbis, talk to your sister about taking a trip. That's what I think is really needed. We need more volunteers to go. Now, I want to tell you, I did meet with Federation. I was trying to get more, a higher level of involvement. Let's put it that way. More than I thought I could do from the synagogue. So I went to Federation about bringing in these avocados, and now when we hear all this stuff about tariffs and avocados from Mexico, I said, hey, you know what? Let's get avocados from Israel. And especially in our Jewish neighborhoods, like our Heinens down the street, we say we have avocados from Israel. I thought, the Jewish community would go flying there to buy the avocados. And so, I wanted to bring them in. So they say they're working on it. I took it to the higher ups, let's put it that way, because I thought that we could import them, and they're working, and our federation is working this kibbutz. So I wanted to import them. So that's one thing I kind of threw out there. Another thing I threw out there that has not been picked up, that I'm not getting much response on, is I think we should be doing a year of national service for all our young people, going to Israel for a year to help volunteer. I think we could rebuild Israel, really help rebuild all these communities in 2 years, next 2-3 years. If we send, 200 kids from America and 100 kids from Europe and 100 kids from Australia, I said, they have a year of Shana Sheirut, a year of service when in Israel. And I said, why don't they let diaspora kids come and do it too? And I know one of my kids at a gap year, they would have done it in a minute. And I know there's kids here that I could get to go. But I think we need to have that on a national level of having American and European. We have different delegations, South American kids from Argentina, have delegations go from different countries, young people doing a year of service to the Jewish people by helping in Israel, and they could, move around, help with elderly, help with the agricultural work, help with children with disabilities. We could, do a lot of interesting things, but it's bigger than this little rabbi from Cleveland, Ohio. I went to Federation. I'm trying to get other people interested, but it's kind of above my abilities, so I'm trying to get some other things going like that. And I put the word out. I met with people back in January. I didn't wait too long. They had to hold me off a couple of weeks because they couldn't meet with me, so I've tried, but it's not going going anywhere. So that's kind of why I'm gonna say my daughter was on Nativ. Andrea wrote about Nativ. Nativ is no more. We should be building that back up. But my daughter did Nativ a number of years ago and had a wonderful year. But I think Nativ closed. I think it's the last year was last year. I don't think, right? Not even a group there. So we really have a problem that we're not getting young people, but young people should be going and helping, and I think devoting a year of their lives to help rebuild our homeland. I think that there's communities in the South that really need to be totally rebuilt. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to work on. So I want you all to talk to your synagogues about taking a group, taking volunteers. It doesn't have to be young people. We can all do this. It's all stuff that, you know, we have the ability to do, and they're thrilled to have us. I'm happy to talk to any rabbis about it. I went through I didn't even know where to start. I used a tour group called Authentic Israel. They have trips. I should tell you, they have trips almost every week. You can just sign on that's what I did. I signed us all on as one of their groups. They wanted to put other people with us. I'm like, no, I'll fill it up. So they won 20, we took 17. They won 20, maybe even 25, but they'll go for like 17, 18. And you can take, they're online, you sign up through them, and they run the whole thing. The meals were terrific. Like, we would be in the middle of the avocado fields, and there'd be a taxi. And I hear the tour guide and the bus driver talking about somebody has a taxi. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I get to the gate of the hotel. We get to the gate of the kibbutz. There's a taxi there. They go, there it is. I go, why is there a taxi meeting us? They said, our lunch. And they took out a box of they told me we're having bag lunches. I thought we were going to be eating peanut butter and jelly or hummus and pita every day. They were gourmet lunches. I'm telling you, eggplant with feta. And it was like fabulous lunches with a Danish and a pastry and a quiche. They were delicious. Every day we're like, what do you have? What do you, they were delicious lunches. And they met us in the field. They came by taxi exactly on time. It was like unbelievable. It was just a fabulous experience. So I would encourage anyone, if you just want to go, to get a group of friends to go on the same trip with you and go. But they need our help, and we all should be getting to Israel. And I am itching to go back. Okay, any other questions?
There was just a question about if you talked to Nativ.
I said Nativ, I believe closed. I got an
Keeps
email.
going.
I think so too.
It closed. Yeah, my daughter was on it. My daughter's an alumni, but it's closed. They didn't have enough kids.
It's closed, and there's no more regions in USY. So
I'm trying to keep USY going in the synagogue. It's pulling teeth, but yeah, we don't have a region. My daughter was Cruzy president. It's very difficult. We don't have enough kids.
I'm an old Cruzyite.
My daughter was a rel-ed, and then she was president, and there's just not, when I say things, she goes, oh, sure, they sort of say Nativ, Leva Shalom. It's sad. One kid didn't Nativ, the other kid was Cruzy president. It was different kids. And it's just our youth are not, we are not putting enough money and staffing into it. It's not that there's not interest, but the kids are pulled in 100 different directions, and the parents are not pushing them to do Jewish things as much. It's very difficult. But, I still have a USY chapter going and trying to we call it rebuilding. We're rebuilding now since COVID kind of killed it all. And that was the problem. Not having weekends, the kids just don't meet kids from other places. That's the big thing.
Does Young Judea still, my son did year course. With Young
They have
Judea,
year course.
but I mean, this was in 2006, so.
Year course is going. I think it's one of the only groups that is going.
Okay.
But the gap year was a very valuable experience for my daughter, and I would encourage kids to do it.
Oh, Rabbi Marcus, how about if you send me the link for the podcast and I can send it out?
Okay.
And
Okay.
because we are running over
Yes.
an hour now.
Okay.
Are
Yes.
there any more questions?
I have a question, but this is more administrative. To Judy Frank and her question, we recorded this, didn't we?
Right.
Yes, I was.
right.
So
going to
Judy
say-
could actually get it on the Women's League.
Right. Okay.
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 Feel free to use it. Okay.
But when were you there again? I don't remember what month. Well, you were there.
December. I think it was 8th to 15th. And we thought we'd see, we saw some
It
Hanukkah
was in
stuff, like-
2024, just recently?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like-
wow. Okay.
So you know what? When I was there, when my daughter was on Nativ, we went in December, and there was a lot of Hanukkah stuff going on, and there was, we saw sufganiyot everywhere. I have to say, I kept telling my girl, "Oh, see sufganiyot." I don't think I had one. We just didn't see it. It wasn't, it didn't feel like a holiday, so much. It wasn't as pervasive. We were in Jerusalem, and it just wasn't. And I said to my daughter, "We didn't see much sufganiyot." She said, really, it starts like the beginning of December. It was always out. Like, I think, you were having Thanksgiving and I was eating sufganiyot, it just, there's, you know, people in Israel are just, they didn't feel like celebrating so much. It wasn't as pervasive. They were busy with day-to-day activities. I'm sure when Hanukkah came around, they came up, but people were not, you know, preparing for that. They were busy with as I said, everyone was leading 3 lives. They were dealing with the army, or their kids in the army, or their husband in the army, their job, keeping businesses going, taking care of their family, and then volunteering to help the community. They're exhausted. They're exhausted. They need hands, like to do the agricultural work. They need hands with the food, just whatever you can do to help. Okay, and you want to see any more questions? If not, we can grab Karen. I think Karen has the podcast. Maybe she can figure out how to send that.
She put the link in the chat.
Okay.
Do I share it with everybody? I just shared it with you, Linda.
Oh, okay.
Share it with everybody if they
Okay, I could do that.
But it's just 13 minutes. It was just an interview, and it's a lot of the stuff you might have heard me say, but I thought it was interesting. He was very excited that we were there and wanted to, a kid who grew up at Park, and he wanted to interview us, and you could hear some of the people in the groups reactions to their experience.
We do have a comment that this was very interesting, and they want to know how many days you were there. You
1 week.
just
1 week. We left on a Sunday. We got there on Monday, and we came home on Monday. We left Sunday night, came on Monday. We were on the ground, you know. We were on the ground 7 days. Like, it was tiring. I came home very tired, but we were all like raring to go. I mean, I came home and I called Federation and said, I have to meet with you, you know, so we were all very motivated to work.
I know Jewish Federation in Cincinnati sent a group right around the same time.
We didn't see him. We really didn't run into, you know,
Yeah, I
usually when
know
you're in
they
a tour
were-
bus, you run into people all over. You see friends at the wall. I said, I didn't see any Americans at the wall. All we saw were Israelis at the wall. I mean, I've never been there when I didn't see run into a friend at the wall. What it was like.
Well, if there aren't any more questions or comments, Pam Schlossberg, our International Financial Secretary and immediate past president of Central Great Lakes, will wrap up our program.
Thank you. Before we return to our regularly scheduled lives, won't you join me in recognizing and thanking those involved in the gift of this program that we had this morning? First, we want to recognize and thank Rabbi Sharon Marcus. You are such a special friend to our region. Thank you for sharing your incredible mission to Israel, not only bringing to light so many facets of the beautiful work that you and your members of Park Synagogue performed in Israel, but for also sharing your enthusiasm, your insights, your conversations along the way, resounding with the need for all of us to be supportive and to be a present and to take a trip to Israel. It's been terrific and meaningful and an inspirational tour, and you are an inspiration to us. We also want to thank Linda Wolf, Region Vice President of Programs, and Gilda Schwartz, Region Vice President of Education, who planned and organized this program and carefully looked after myriad of details to make an idea into a reality. Wanda Pitsley, our Central Great Lakes Region President, thank you for always being there, even from a hospital bed. You helped us continue to move forward, and we're grateful. Heidi Weissman, Regional Vice President of Communication, you helped to create awareness of this program and spread it through the region, and we thank you. And Karen Bellina, Women's League Digital Content Manager, thank you for your amazing technical expertise and for your care you bring to all of our projects to ensure that our programs are seamless, and they are, and we thank you. And finally, to all of you who took the time from a busy Sunday to be here today. We're especially grateful to our sister in Israel for joining us, and with whom we stand steadfast side by side always. And we invite all of you to come back for our next program organized by our Israeli team, led by Esther Javits. It's going to be Sunday, April 27th. This will be a thought-provoking look at and a response to the trauma in Israel and here in the United States after October 7th. So please watch for more information. And finally, we hope that you will remember this program and remember the light that we create together is stronger than any shadow. This light born of love and unity and compassion, it will carry us through the darkest of times and into a brighter future as long as we're together. So I hope to see you in April, and thank you to everyone.